Tonight we've got Robert L. Smith calling in. He is the producer of Stacy Rose, but he also has worked with some of the biggest names in the industry, and he's going to tell us all about that. Johnny Byers will be calling in with a sports report, and right now we're going to talk to Bob Hyldburg from Woburn. Hello, Bob.
Joe, how are you?
Met you at the expo.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun.
Crowded, yeah. The place was jammed, the Heinz Auditorium. Yes, indeed.
It was a very interesting event, and I'm going to ask if we can shut the door between the studios and here, and make sure that we got the telephone wired up. Hello there in the studio. We got the telephone wired up. Thank you very much. It's the difficulty of going from one show to another. But here we are. The book. When did you get the idea?
Well, I always thought, as a kind of a frustrated fan of the Patriots, that I might put together a trivia book. So I was working at Parker Brothers at one time as a cost analyst, and the people from Trivia Pursuit came down to Parker Brothers and said, hey, we got this great game. And Parker Brothers said, no, I don't think so. It's a trivia game. It's never sell. And then, of course, the history of Trivia Pursuit, they sold more Trivia Pursuit games in 1 year than the history of Monopoly and the history of Monopoly.
I did not know that.
Huge success. So a year later, Parker Brothers comes out with a People magazine game to compete with Trivia Pursuit. And it was a bomb. But as I'm in accounting, I had a chance to look at some of the packaging, and I noticed that one of the trivia questions was wrong. And I thought, geez, Parker Brothers, multi-million-dollar company putting out this trivia, it's wrong. Maybe I can, I noticed that. Maybe I can put together a trivia book. And I just happened to be watching the fireworks in Woburn one time, and we started going through who's the greatest player to wear number 3, and 4, and 5. And we got it into the 40s and 50s, and I got frustrated. I said, who wore number 42 of the Patriots? I couldn't think of his name. Well, it ended up being Matt Karen. But so I called Gil Santos and said, how do I get information about the Patriots and look up uniform numbers? He sent me over to the Sports Museum. I started looking stuff up, and it started from there.
1 second. Marcia, would you mind asking Joe if we can use that mic for the telephone? Thank you.
For the phone? Sure.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of I was a frustrated fan that ended up with looking through some old archives of the New England Sports Museum. And, when you're in this book here, you can find all the uniform numbers, who wore them when. Wow. And as I was looking up information about all these uniform numbers, I found out that there was 13 blocked punts. So I said, all right, let me look up all the blocked punts.
13 blocked punts.
And then blocked field goals, and then blocked extra points. So,
thank you. Joe LaRocca is now part of the show. You remember Joe from the soapbox last year. But these stats are amazing.
So as I was putting together all these blocked field goals and blocked punts and who did it and what game, I wanted to kind of get into that. And as certain players would come in town, like Mike Haynes would come to an autograph show, or Stanley Morgan, or Steve Grogan, I would get a chance to talk to some of these guys that were doing autograph shows. And I said, do you remember that particular interception or that particular touchdown pass or, that play? He said, well, no, not really. So I started collecting media guides of the Patriots.
Wow. I want to thank the wonderful show, too, for doing a great job having, as you were getting your prop, I thought I'd interrupt, but Paul Manganaro was a great guest for them to have. So thank you, wonderful show, for having a great sports night here with Paul Manganaro and then you.
Oh, you go.
I think it segued very nicely. They do a good job, those guys.
So I took this, this is a media guide the Patriots put out. You can pick this up,
It's an annual thing.
It's an annual thing. So when I started looking up some of the old stuff, I said, well, what happened about this and about that? And it wasn't in the media guide. So I
those who aren't totally
up.
Fanatical, what is a media guide as opposed to like you get they have the yearbook, but what's a media guide?
A media guide really lets them know who the draft picks are, where they went to school, what their major was, a little bit of their college
highlights. It's a guide
highlights.
for the media about
and then it talks about
athletes.
Each one of the players that's on the current roster, what their highlights were and stuff like that. So it's a year by year synopsis of the players and then a little bit of the history of the last 30, 40, in this case 50 years of the Patriots. So I couldn't find what I was looking for in this media guide and took this and turned it into an 800-page. And my publisher out of Chicago, who said, well, this is an encyclopedia, really, but it's really 3 or 4 books in one. There's stories, there's stats, there's stuff you really want to look up, the block field goals that's in there. But
it's a real fun look at New England football.
Yeah.
With the New England team as front and center.